Bishus, my dear friend, the Mora de Asra, last time we met, I think it was in Ramot Gimel, and we shared Divrei Torah and a lot of music too, but it is in the Yomei Sefirah, so we won't have music tonight. I hope the Torah will compensate for the lack of music. Zmiros hayu li chukecha. So we will sing the song of Torah. Special thanks to my dear friend, Moshe Kesselman. He is the one to blame that I'm here tonight. Said Moshe, Pseudos Tovis for you and the entire family. The Torah we learned tonight is dedicated to Refuah Shlema for Eliezer Pinchas ben Devaira Zisel, a wonderful young man, Eli Barko. Kodesh Baruch Hu should send him a Refuah Shlema min hashamayim, and he should have arichas yomim vishonim with his wonderful family. We should only hear B'Seidas Tovis. So we're gathering here tonight to prepare for Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is a very special day. On one hand, it's in the midst of Yomei Sefirah, which are days of mourning. But it is a day of simcha, somewhat of a mystery. Why is Lag BaOmer a day of simcha? There are various different reasons, and not only one. So most of sources claim that this is the day, Yom Dehilula Shel Harashbi, Reb Shimon bar Yochai. This is the day Shabo Allah Besara Hashamayma, which once again is a mystery. Two of the greatest poskim, the Chassam Sofer, Shuvas Yoredeya, says, I don't understand why people are happy in Lag BaOmer if this is the day in which Reb Shimon passed away. Kashe silukan shel tzadikim kesreifat beit Elokeinu. Should be a day of profound sadness and mourning. I heard that in Tzfat, in Eretz Yisrael, they have a big simcha. If I would be there, I would not participate. That's what the Chassam Sofer writes. Shoyla Meshev Madura Hay writes, I'm confident that in the days of the Beis Yosef and the Ari, they didn't rejoice. Kvodam bimkomo munach. But they had it wrong. Both the Chassam Sofer and the great sage, Rabbi Yosef Shol Natanson, the Shoyla Meshev. Because the Ari did participate. And how? As we learn in Sharat Kavanos, Perek Yud Beis, and Reb Chaim Vital describes the tremendous simcha when the Ari came to Miran on Lag BaOmer. And Reb Chaim Vital, the greatest disciple of the Ari HaKadosh, shares a shocking story. In those days, it was one of the greatest Mikubolim in Tzfat. His name was Rabbi Avram Halevi. And Chorban Beis HaMikdash had such a profound impact on him that he said Nachem every day of the year, besides Shabbos and Yom Tov. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai came to the Ari HaKadosh in a dream, and he complained. Our friend Rabbi Avram Halevi said, Nachem biyom simchati. Why did he do it? Ho'avoido sheyira ben achama. And in 30 days, one of his children passed away, and he was makabel tanchumi. So yes, it is a day of simcha. And yes, the multitudes, the hundreds of thousands that make their way to Miran Very good reason to do so. So what is the Simcha of Lag BaOmer, and why do we rejoice? Shulchan Aruch and Siman Tov Tzaddik Gimel writes, Oimrim sheposku lamus. Very interesting formula. Oimrim. People say. Doesn't write who says. And Rabbi Yosef, he doesn't share any source. People say. So obviously there is significance in what people say. And what the Rabbi Yosef writes, people say, we find 300 years earlier in the Meiri, in Yevamos Samach Beis. This is the day in which the plague was over. And maybe towards the end of today's Shir, we will try to explain, and why was that the day that the plague was over. So one reason that we rejoice is Yom Hilula. For any reason, it's a great day. Because in the day that Reb Shimon passed away, that unbelievably magnificent day described in the Idra, and the Idra is part of the Zohar. On that day, more than on any other, he shared the most profound secrets, Seides HaTorah, with his Talmidim. Explanation number 2, the plague was over, and Talmidei Rabbi Akiva no longer perished. Explanation number 3 is the Chidah in Sefirah Moira Be'etzba. The Chidah wrote many svarim, and he writes, that is the day in which Rabbi Akiva was masmich. He gave smicha to his 5 last and greatest Talmidim, Raboteinu shebedarom. So I want to divide my talk to you tonight into 2 different sections. The first will be the mystical, Kabbalistic one. And then the Musar approach, which is the more relevant one to each and every one of us. So I explained 3 different approaches. Why is Lag BaOmer a special day? Hatzad hashaveh shebishloshtam. The common denominator is, this is a special day because very special things transpired on this day. It was the day in which Reb Shimon shared with his Talmidim the most profound Sodot HaTorah. It is the day in which the plague, the terrible curse was finally over. It is the day in which Raboteinu shebedarom were musmach al yedei Rabbi Akiva. But the Ari in Shara Kavanot has a totally different approach. This is a special day not because of what happened in this day. Great things happened in this day because it is a special day. It is a special day, Mesheshet Yemei Bereshit. Rabbi Yankov Emden, in his magnificent Siddur, Shari Shamayim, Sidur Beit Yaakov. Probably most of you are familiar with the Emden Siddur because it's one of the most important Siddurim that we have. And in Lag BaOmer, he writes something that is very surprising, and he writes, Lag BaOmer is a terrible day of Midas Adin. So bad that it's got to be good. Bederech she'amru Chazal, Sanhedrin shara'u kulam lechova, mezakim oto. So Masechet Sanhedrin, there's an interesting halacha. Lo danim dinei nefashot ela bebeit din shel chav gimel. 23 dayanim must participate when we're dealing with a case that might involve capital punishment. And the majority always has the upper hand. Achrei rabim lahatot. And the Gemara says, if all the 23 Dayanim reach the same conclusion, that the person is guilty, then we let him free. Why? Because it is totally unreasonable. 23 judges, 23 Dayanim, and none of them could see a limud zchut. None of them could suggest leniency. Cannot be. Imra'u kulam lechova potrim oto. And Rabbi Akiva in a strange way says, midas adin that is so harsh just must be overturned to rachamim. And that is what happens on Lag B'Omer. So let me share with you Torah Ha'ari. Shem Elokim, that is the Shem of Midas Adin. Probably you all know Shem Havaya, Yud Kei, Vav Kei, is the manifestation of Rachamim, of mercy. Shem Elokim is a reflection of Midat Adin, of harsh judgment. Kasher din nehefach larachamim, the three inner letters of Elokim, Lamed, Hey, and Yud, take a step backward. And those three letters become Chaf, Daled, Tet. The Lamed steps back and becomes a Chaf. The Hey is transformed to Daled. And the Yud turns into Tet. Shem Elokim Ofech L'Shem Achdatam. And that is how Midas Adin is transformed to Rachamim. Achdatam, Begematria, has the numerical value of 74. The three inner letters that are the ones that transformed into Rachamim, Begematria, Lamed Gimel. And that is the remez Eid Hagal Hazeh. Eid is 74. Gal is 33. And that is the remez to Elokim, turning to Achdatam. The three inner letters are 33. The entire Shem is 74. Eid Hagal Hazeh. My addition, my personal addition to Reb Chaim Vital is the difference in numerical value, Begematria, between Elokim and Achdatam is 12. That is the Gematria of Zeh. Eid Hagal Hazeh. So why is Midas Adin transformed to Rachamim when the inner letters step back and not the Aleph and the Mem, the outer letters? This comes to indicate that in Pnimius, Midas Adin is always Rachamim, like Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef teaches us. Kol da'avid rachmana letav avid. And why do the three inner letters, ha'otiyot ha'pnimiyot, sheromzim lepnimiyut, why do they step back? Because the Medrash Rabbah in the beginning of Parshas Bereshis says, Bereshis boro Elokim. So why does the Torah start with Shem Elokim, Midas Adin, and only in the continuation of the Parsha we find Shem Hashem? מתחילה עלה במחשבה לברוא את העולם במידת הדין. ראה הקדוש ברוך הוא שאין העולם מתקיים. הקדים midat harachamim lemidat adin. So rachamim comes before din. So when din needs to be transformed to rachamim, the otiyot step back. לאותיות הקודמות להם. כי הקודש ברוך הוא הקדים רחמים לדין. Avodas Yisrael was the Kushnitzer Magid. I'm looking at this crowd. Did anybody know who was the Kushnitzer Magid? I'm sure that your Rav knows. He knows. Anybody know who's the Kushnitzer Magid? Lift your hand. Oh, I see quite a few of you are familiar. Avodas Yisrael in the Likutim quotes the great Magid of Mezrich, Rebbe Rebbe. First and foremost amongst the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, Tzamu nafshi la'elokim, Kapitel Mem Beis in Tehillim, Lokei al Chai, Matai avo ve'era'eh pnei ha'elokim. So the great Magid of Mezrich said, Tzamu nafshi le'elokim, I yearn to be davek in Elokim, but Elokim of mercy, not Elokim of judgment. Lokei el Chai, El Chai is begematria memtet, alluding to Yemei Sefirah. Matai avo ve'era'eh pnei Elokim, that is mashelefnei Elokim. And that is achdatam, when Elokim is transformed from a Shem of judgment to a Shem of rachamim gedolim. Tzamu nafshi le'elokim le'kel chai, El Chai Memtet, the Elokim of Yemei Sefirah, the Elokim of Lag BaOmer. Matai avo ve'era'eh pnei Elokim, and that is ha'otiyot shelifnei. Chov Dalatet, the three inner letters, they're transformed into Rachamim. Arosh Tevis, ki toivim doidecho meyayin. Shira Shirim. Shira Shirim, which is a song of love. The love story between the Dod and the Ra'aya. The love story between HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebanav Chavivav. And that is what happens on Lag BaOmer. So the approach of the Balei HaKabbalah, the Ari, in the words of his great disciple, is a totally different approach. Lag BaOmer is a special day, not because of what transpired in this day. Because Lag BaOmer is in essence such a special day, Zacha v'natal asara atarot. So this is just to share a glimpse of Pnimius HaTorah and why this is a special day. It is a special day in essence. That is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this day. And the special zgula of this day is when Midas Adin is transformed to Rachamim Gedolim. And the greatest Rachamim are those that come out of Midas Adin. The Goen, Sidur Agra, Kiddusha de Sidra, which is Ashrei Uvolet Zion, Tfilas Shachris. And the Posek Bigvurot Yesha Yemino. The Goen says, Gvurot Zamidat Adin. Yemin is always Rachamim. Smal Doich Yemin Mekareves. The greatest Rachamim are those inspired by Midas Adin. And that is why we say, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Berachamim Rabim, Beberkat HaGvurot. The second Baruch in Shmoyne Esrei is Berkat HaGvurot. Gvurot is din. That is where we say, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed. So on Lag BaOmer, when Elokim is transformed, and din is mashpia rachamim, those are the greatest rachamim we could ever have. And that is why Lag BaOmer is such a special day. So Lag BaOmer is a day to daven, to pray, to learn Zayah, and to plead with the Kodesh Baruch Hu in the schus of Reb Shimon. We should all be Zaycha to Refuas, Yeshuas, and Beseres Tovis. The days of Omer originally were days of joy, festival. The Ramban al Torah says that the days between Pesach and Atzeres are the same as the days between Chag and Atzeres. First day Sukkot is Chag, B'yom Hashmini Atzeret tiyeh lachem. What are the days between the first and the last day, Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres? Chol HaMoed, according to the Ramban, the 49 days between Pischa v'Atzarta, Pesach and Atzeres, were like 49 days of Chol HaMoed. But these days were tragically transformed. Ma'or gadol la'afela, misimcha liyagon. When tragedy befell our people and 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva perished in a very short period between Pesach and Atzeres. And why did this happen? Shelo nahagu kavod zeh bezeh. They couldn't respect each other. Nigzera gzera, and they all perished in a very short period. And everyone wonders, is it such a grave avera? Ben chiyuvei hakaret, we don't find mishelo noheg kavod b'chaviro. Neither is it mita b'dei shamayim. So why such a terrible gzeira? And what we would consider a relatively misdemeanor. The answer is twofold, and I think both fit into the same context. Rabbi Akiva was the greatest Tana of his era, maybe the greatest of them all. But how could we say? Definitely one of the giants of the entire period of the Mishnah. He was an essential link in Sharsheres HaMesorah, in the chain of transmission defined by Chazal and the Rambam, Ma'atikei HaShmu'ah. He was an essential link in that chain. And his Talmidim were destined to be the same, to pass on the torch to future generations. What they learned from their giant of a Rebbe, from Rabbi Akiva, to the coming generations. HaTorah shel Ma'atikei HaShmu'ah tzricha liot Torah nikiya mekol revav, mekol dofi, umekol shemetz. The Torah of Manchilei Morasha must be pure Torah, pure in every way. And those Talmidim that couldn't respect each other cannot be Matikei HaShmu'ah. They are not fitting to be another link in this magnificent chain. So they needed to leave the stage and make room for others that'll be better. לא נהגו כבוד זה בזה. And that was terrible punishment. I heard a story from my great Rebbe many times. And I had the schus of learning Torah from the Kloisenberger Rebbe, also known as the Tzanzer Rebbe, the Divrei Yatzev. And he was a giant of our time in every way, in Torah, in Avodah, and in Chesed. And one of his earliest recollections as a child, he told the story, I was sitting in my father's lap, and his father was the Rudnik Rav, third generation to the Divrei Chaim, the great sons of Rav. The Divrei Chaim's son was Reb Borach Megorlitz, his son Reb Tzvi Hersh Merudnik, and his son was the Kloisenberger Rebbe. I was sitting on my father's lap, and my father was crying, and I asked him, Tate, favos weinst? Abba, lama ta boche? And my father said, Ich bin dich mekane. I envy you. And I was surprised. I said, Father, you're a big Rebbe and you have many Hasidim. I'm a little boy, so I should envy you. And my father responded and he said, I envy you because you didn't see the Divrei Chaim. I was mishamish the Divrei Chaim. And I was totally perplexed, and I once again responded, Abba, that's another reason I should envy you. You knew the Divrei Chaim, the great sons thereof. And my father said, my little boy, you didn't know the Divrei Chaim, so what could they demand from you? But I will be asked, you mishamish the Divrei Chaim, and this is who you are, and this is how you look. You learn nothing from your great Zaidi, from your great Rebbe. And my father cried bitterly. So what I learned from the story, being mishamish and Adam Gadol, riding on the shoulders of a giant, it's not only a schus, it's not only a privilege, it's an awesome responsibility as well. And those 24,000 Talmidei Chachamim were asked from the heavens, are you Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva? What exactly did you learn from your great Rebbe? Weren't you there when in Yerushalmi Nedorim Lamed Umed Beis Rabbi Akiva says, "V'yohavto l'reachu kamocho ze klal gadol b'Torah"? You didn't hear that one? You weren't there? And where were you when Rabbi Akiva says 4 different times in Shas, maybe 5, Et Hashem Elokecha tira lerabot talmidei chachamim? You didn't hear that one either? And where were you when Rabbi Akiva says in Perek Gimel of Masechet Avos, Chaviv Adam shenivra b'tzelem, חיבה יתרה נודעת לו, שנברא בצלם אלוקים. You didn't hear that one either? So what did you learn from Rabbi Akiva? So that's a responsibility. And those are very tough questions. How do you consider yourselves Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva if you don't even know to be mechabed one another? V'nigzera hagzera. And 24,000 Talmidei Chachamim perished in a very short period. And what happened then? The story is told twice in Chazal. Yevamah Samech Beis. Kohelet Rabbah, Perek Zayin. So in Yevamah's Chazal say, Yud Beis Elev Zugot Talmidim Ayura Rabbi Akiva Kol Amisu Ben Pesach Latzeret Shelo Na'agu Kavod Zeh B'zeh. V'haya ha'olam shomem, and the world was barren. And there was a real danger to the transmission of Torah to the coming generations. The world was void and barren. V'hoyu olam shomem. Ad sheba Rabbi Akiva etzel Rabutenu shebedarom v'shana lahem. 24,000 perished. We don't know their names. And we don't know what they taught us. And miraculously, Rabbi Akiva in his elderly years after this terrible tragedy found the strength to once again start from scratch. And he put together 5 Talmidim. Those 5 were the greatest Tanoim. Rabbi Belanes, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. I'm not familiar with this community, but I guess that everybody sitting on my left knows these great names. I assume many sitting on my right would also be familiar with these great names. These names are mentioned in almost every Mishnah. From the beginning of Zra'im to the end of Taharot. And in Keheres Rabbah, there's a line which we do not find in Masechet Yevamos. Before Rabbi Akiva started learning Torah with Rabotenu Shebedarom, he told them about the tragedy. And he pleaded with them, Atem al tihiyu kemotam. I wouldn't survive another tragedy. Please be different. Al tihiyu kemotam. Love each other. Respect each other. Please. Minchat asher sichot chele gimel. There's an amazing essay. I'm a shtickle magea bedover, but I really think it's amazing. And I realized many sources in Chazal, each and every one of those giants, Rabotenu Shebedaram, was a paragon, a symbol of excellence in Kvod Chaverim and Ahavat Re'im. Reb Meir, number 1, first and foremost, Midrash Tanchuma Parshat V'yechi. כל המברך את ישראל כאילו מברך את השכינה. רבי יהודה בר אילאי, number 2, מדרשה בשיר השירים פרק בייז. כל המקבל פני חברו, כאילו מקבל פני השכינה. The words are Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, but we hear an echo. שומעים בת קול של רבי עקיבא. חביב אדם שנברא בצלם. חיבה יתרה נודעת לו שנברא בצלם אלוקים. Every Jew is a צלם אלוקים. המברך את ישראל כאילו מברך את השכינה. מקבל פני חברו כאילו מקבל פני השכינה. רב שמעון בר יוחאי. נוח לו לאדם שיפיל את עצמו לכבשן האש ואל ילבין פני חברו ברבים. You need to give your life and not embarrass a person in public. Is there any greater statement about Kvoid Chaverim? And then comes along Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Mesechet Shabbat Kuf Yudchet. Miyamai lo avarti al divrei chaverai. Do you know anyone could say the same? מימיי לא עברתי על דברי חבריי, יודע אני בעצמי שאינני כהן. והם יאמרו לי חבריי, עלה לדוכן, הייתי עולה. I'm not a Kohen. But if my friends, and he had great friends, Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, Rashbi, they would say, עלה לדוכן, I'll go up there. The last of Rabbi Seinu Shebedorim, Rabbi Elazar ben Shlomo and Mesechet Avot. מורה רבך כמורה שמיים, כבוד חברך כמורה רבך. Which means, כבוד חברים is כמורה שמיים. And then Rabbi Elazar ben Shlomo shares a chiddush. ולעולם יהי כבוד תלמידך חביב עליך. Each and every one of us has his dignity. And we need to respect not only our Rebbeim, our teachers, our friends as well, and our Talmidim. Our children have their dignity, and every Rebbe that teaches Torah needs to give honor and respect to his Talmidim. And that is so essential, and so important, and so fundamental. This is the Torah of Rabbi Seinu Shebedorim. And they took to heart what Rabbi Akiva pleaded with them. Atem al tiyu kemotam. Learn to love each other and to respect each other. And they did. And that is why they were Zoicha to be the ultimate Matikei Shmua u'manchilei morasha. I shared the 5 names, Rabotenu Shebedorom Lefi Abavli, Mesechet Yevamot. In Kohelet, there's one more name, Rabbi Nehemiah. And in Sanhedrin Pevav, the Gemara says, Stam Mishnah Reb Meir, Stam Tosefta, Rabbi Nehemiah, Sefirah and Sefri are Rabbi Yehuda v'Reb Shimon. That is the entirety of Torah Shebal Peh. Bavli and Yerushalmi are commentary. But the fundamentals are Mishnah, Tosefta, Sefra, Sefri. Toratam Sharabotenu Shebedorim. 24,000 left without a trace. 4 giants. And they were the ultimate Matikei Shmua. Rabotenu Shebedaram. The later Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Why were they Zoicha more than the 24,000 predecessors? Nagu Kavod. Zeh b'zeh. Let me share with you one last comment. So Rabbi Akiva taught us the importance of Yehavtu l'reachu k'moicho. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Mora rav et Hashem lokecho tiro lerabot talmidei chachamim. Kvod chavirim. So in the very same source in which Rabbi Akiva says, V'yahavta l'reachu k'moicho zeh klal gadol b'Torah, Ben Azai disagrees. And Ben Azai says, Zeh Sefirah Toldot Adam, Klal Gadol Heimenu. Ben Azai was a Talmud Chaver of Rabbi Akiva. He was a Talmud, but he grew in stature. He always considered himself a Talmud, but he was also a peer. You know, he was a Talmud Chaver. And when the great Rabbi Akiva says, V'yahavtu l'reachu k'moicho is a fundamental rule, Ben Azai says, he doesn't dispute Rabbi Akiva. He doesn't say V'yahavtu l'reachu k'moicho is not a klal gadol. But he argues, I think there is one klal that is even greater. And that is, Zeh Sefirah Toldot Adam. Everybody quotes Rabbi Akiva, nobody quotes Ben Azai. What is he saying? What is so important about Zeh Sefer Toldos Adam? My feeling is this. Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam B'Tselem Elokim Bara Otam. The argument between Rabbi Akiva and Banazai is, what is the most fundamental ingredient of a just, humane, wonderful Torah society? What is the most important characteristic, the most fundamental ingredient? Rabbi Akiva says, "We have to l'reachu k'moicha." Love each other. Ben Azai says, I think respect, kavod, is even more essential. Zeh Sefer Toldos Adam, B'Tselem Elokim Bara Otam. I wasn't there, and if I was, I wouldn't remember. But I imagine, and I could almost hear the voice of Ben Azai saying, Rebbe, I hope you're not angry. It's not me. I'm just quoting what we heard from you. And what I say is your title. I was there when you said, Chovev Odom Shenivra B'Tselem Chibayetera. No dat lo Shenivra B'Tselem Alekim. And I share the sentiment of Reb Meir. Hamavorech es Esol, Mavorech es Shchina. And the feeling of Rabbi Yehuda, Mekabel Pnei Chaveru Ki Mekabel Pnei Shchina. I think the fundamental realization that each and every one of us is at Tselem Elokim, and therefore deserves his respect. That is even more important than Ahavat Re'im. Because love, by its very nature, cannot be uniform, cannot be universal. It was never meant to be uniform, because a person is supposed to love his wife and children more than he loves anyone else. Dinei avelus yochichu. But we need to learn to respect even those that we have difficulty loving, even those that we do not love. Chaviv Adam Shenevra B'Tselem. So Ben Azai says, our great Rebbe, I definitely agree, we all agree. You have to l'reachu k'moicha is a klal gadol b'Torah, but I feel there is something that is even more important and more essential. Says Sefer Toldot Adam, B'Tselem Elokim Bara Otam. Let us note, Chav Daled Elef Talmidim hayu Rabbi Akiva v'kulam eisu ben Pesach la'atzeres. Why? לא מפני שלא אהבו זה את זה, אלא מפני שלא נהגו כבוד זה בזה. האהבה והכבוד, those are the two pillars, the two essentials, the two most important ingredients in a real Torah Yiddish society. לא נכניס את ראשנו בין הרים גדולים. Rabbi Akiva says, Ahavo, Ben Azai says, Kavod, Elu v'yelu divrei Elokim chayim, Echoz b'zeh, v'gam ezeh, al tanach yadcha. So as we approach Lag BaOmer, and the plague was finally over, and we wonder why. It is very well known that the Besol Salanta preached to his Talmidim. There must be a connection between 49 days of Sefirah and 48 Kinyanei Torah. The last perek of Masechet Avos, a Torah niknet b'memchet devarim. Rabbi Slanter argued, these numbers are too close. They must be one and the same. And he actually demanded and taught his Talmidim from the first day of Sefirah, each and every day you need to work on one of the Kinyonei Torah and forge ahead, move forward from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. The Chidush Harim says the same before the Psua Salanter. The Maral is the first one to see a connection between the 48 and the 49. My guess is what the Chidush Harim taught his Hasidim, what the Psua Salanter demanded from his Talmidim, Rabbi Akiva did the same. Rabbi Akiva definitely knew what they knew. So if you take out a Siddur or a Mishnayos, and every Siddur it's between Mincha and Ma'ariv Shabbos, start counting Memches Dvorim Shatoyre Nikneit Behem. Number 32 is Ohevet Abriyot. 32nd day of Sefirah, they worked on Ahavas Abriyos and Ahavas Leim. Day 33, the plague was over. So every year as we approach Lag Ba'omer, this is our challenge, this is our avodah. Ahavat Re'im, Kvod Chaverim. And in that way we dovek in Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and his great friends, Rabbi Seinu Shebedorim. Each and every one of them was a giant and a paragon in every way, but especially in Kvod Chaverim. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to me to speak to this beautiful community. And I know how much neshama is in this community. Song and prayer and devekus in the spirit of Hasidus and a lot of Ahavas Leim and Kavod Chaverim. Keep it up. Keep up your Avodas HaKodesh. And in the schus of the Tana HaEloki, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rabbi Seinu Shebedorim. We should only know B'Seiras Tovos, Refuos, Yeshois, and Achomis. Horachamon hu yachzir lanu avodas Beis HaMikdash lemkoimo b'mehero. Amen. Selah.